Hello, hello, hello. So glad to be here today with Kelle Rae Oien, my teacher, my inspiring Nia blue belt teacher. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about dance, somatics, sensuality, and sexuality. Maybe
My
my
pleasure.
first question to you would be, well, what does sensuality mean to you? I feel like it's a term that we use, a word that we use quite freely, but what is it that we mean by this? What do you mean by this? What is sensuality for you? How do you know, for example, that somebody is a sensual, I don't know, dancer or mover?
Hmm. I think there are a lot of ways. The first place I go is a book that I read called The Spell of the Sensuous. And right now I'm not remembering the author, but The Spell of the Sensuous. And it's saying that everything, if we put our attention on it, and if we're really awake and alive and in this, you know, vibrating sensory nerve ending biological unit called a body, everything is sensuous, right? The way my hair feels,
Mm,
the touch of the water bottle, the water rolling down my throat, my feet touching the floor, right? And that we can live a sensual life when we just simply put our attention on how we can receive information and sensation in a human
mm,
body. And we can also not put our attention on it and not feel things. And then I think also sensuality is this attention to detail.
mhm,
Like I just got a velvet comforter and I got velvet pillow shams, and the way that they feel on my face is so different. And I'm so excited to get into bed, and good sheets and soft fabrics and candles and scents. I know that some people that's not important to them, but to me, my environment, the things around me, the things I touch, I'm very attentive to that, and that feels
mm.
sensuous.
Ah, that's beautiful. Sometimes I I get a little confused. Not we don't have to go into the definitions of words, but somatic and sensory and sensual, these all feel somehow connected, but not quite the same either.
Hmm.
Yes. Well, what do you think? Uh, what is the relationship in your view between sensuality and sexuality, for example? Is sensual the same as sexual or no? I've heard some people say that for them, they use the word sensual if they feel a little shy and they actually want to say that somebody, for example, moves in a sort of erotic or provocative way. That's actually quite sexual. It's like a euphemism in a way.
Hmm. That's interesting that sensual could be sometimes said to kind of placate or dumb down sexuality, as if saying that it's sexual is
Mhm.
is too much. I mean, I think we're all sexual beings, whether or not we're sexual, right?
Yes.
We have that within us. And I think probably the term sexual seems much more genital, when
Yes.
that we're talking about something specific, but actually it's, do you, to me, like, do you have that turn on? Do you want that? Are
Yeah.
you passionate? Do you have desire um for that contact, for skin on skin, right? Like that kind of rumbling of the belly, like I want this. It feels more primal than
Yes.
sexual, feels more kind of romantic and um you know undulating rather than pulsing. It's like this more soft underbelly than sexual. However, I grew up, my mom was a sex education teacher of my high school. You
Oh, how
probably
interesting.
that. Yeah. And so, my friends would always say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky, your mom's so easy to talk about sex with." And I thought, my mom? I'm not talking to my mom about sex, you know, but I did grow up in an environment where my mom would talk about it, right? So it was kind of easy to talk about. So, you know, I'm glad that I feel sexual, right? Like I have that primal, passionate, you know, and I'm not afraid to talk about that, right? But then there's also a sensual part of me, and I can't imagine being in this body and not exploring it, whether it's on the dance floor or in bed, right? Or just
Mhm.
walking down the street.
Mm. I love it. That's interesting. You have this background in the family also about yeah, erotic matters. Now, let me ask you this question. This is like a very interesting question to me. You, as a NIA teacher, trainer, choreographer, international mm, facilitator, eh, what do you think this practice teaches us about sensuality? Like, do you think NIA mm, helps people become more connected to their sensual or sexual aspect of themselves?
I love it. Aspect. Um,
Side.
yeah, I mean, you know, right from the get-go, out of the gate, the first training, we say choose sensation.
Uh-huh.
And the payoff for choosing sensation and moving in a body and sustaining sensation and attempting to increase sensation to be more body aware. We say
Mhm.
the payoff or what we call the cosmic salary, right? It's not a monetary thing, but what we get from it is more life force,
Mm.
more energy moving through us, right? And so I know that I have more energy at 49 than I did at 25.
Oh.
Right? It has nothing to do that with age, right? It's can you move life force through? How much can you tolerate? And you know, in Kundalini or some yoga practices, they say, you know, don't get your Kundalini, your energy, your life force to rise too soon. It could kind of blow your circuits, right? If you're not amped up for it. Um, so we know we can build more and more and more. And so if I've got more life force, right? It's almost like, I mean, what is an orgasm, right? Kundalini rising, right? Energy rising. Um, it's life force, right? So I think that as we build the life force and we build our energy body, right? And we become containers for more and more and more, we can sense more, we can feel more, right? There's not really like a cap on that.
Mm.
And so then I think
Mm.
being sensual or being okay with my body, right? Or being comfortable with this weird thing, right? We teach people to be more and more comfortable and intimate with it.
Mm.
How would that not blend in being more sensual or sexual, right?
Yes. Let's imagine a person, a man or a woman or a man, comes to you and says, "Well, Kelly, it's very interesting what you say about Nia and sensuality. I would like to try this out, but maybe you could give me some examples as to how in the Nia class you would help me become a sensual person. Like, what are you gonna do to make me feel more sensual?"
um,
Like, are you gonna, is it about like moving in, like about some movements, or is it about music, or is it about, I don't know, performing in front of others?
I think when you know there's often a kind of deer in the headlight sensation when someone comes in and says, I don't know if I want to take this class, I'll stand in the back, I'm not going to be good, right?
Mhm,
That's kind of like a rigid concept of what one has to be, right? Like I have to
mhm,
have this good turnout and the leg here and right. But once they come into a NIA class and they realize everybody's doing it differently, you can't get it wrong as long as it feels good to you. And the more and more they come, the more and more they access their own self-advocating, what they want in the moment, what range of motion feels better. That's a sensual thing, right? Of saying, oh, I'm going to do it this way. My body says do it this way, right? I'm not going to go out as far, or I'm not going to reach as high, or I am, right? And then the more that I think someone accesses more of themselves,
Uh-huh.
just naturally become more sensual.
Oh, I love that.
Aren't you? I think
Yes.
so.
Accessing more of yourself, by accessing more of ourselves, we become naturally more sensual. That's a beautiful idea. Well, let's imagine another person comes to you, says, Kaylee, I love this. It's kind of interesting what you say, but why should we care about being more sensual? Like, why does it matter? Do you think it's important to cultivate one's sensuality, to actually like practice it or work on it, or is it important? Is it important to be sensual?
Sensual and sexual, or sensual only?
I don't know. You
Yeah.
choose. Maybe sensual. Maybe that's a layer people are, I don't know, less familiar with in some way or less clear about.
Hmm. I don't know. I think it's up to each individual about sexual, right?
Mhm.
But in terms of sensual, in terms of getting to know my own body and enjoying it, right, as a sensual act. Um, like my grandmother used to take it, she would be eating and she would go, and like she was such a sensual eater, right? She
Mhm.
enjoyed it. She just didn't stuff food in her face for, sustenance. She enjoyed it. So having a body like that, oh, that smell, or oh, that fabric, I the, it's the body's way to be sensual, right? Meaning to experience life, the smells, the
Yeah.
sights, or else we wouldn't have been given eyes and ears and skin and pores, right, to be able to experience it.
Yeah.
So I find it's important to be embodied, right?
Yeah.
And being embodied to me kind of means that I am a sensual person. I'm paying attention to this experience. And I think it's Stanley Kellerman who says, who wrote Emotional Anatomy, says that every experience in life is a bodily experience. Everything happens through our body.
Mhm. Mhm. One of the big lessons that I have learned from Nia from the very beginning is the importance of pleasure, and how movement and embodiment can teach us about the importance of pleasure. And I feel like a lot of us still, maybe especially women, I don't know, we somehow feel like, or I at least feel apologetic about this somehow, like, oh, I need to work, I need to get this and this done, and then maybe I can feel some pleasure also. And in Nia, we learn how pleasure is such an important aspect, like all the time, not only particular times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? I have been feeling, now you're making me aware. I've been feeling this week that I feel apologetic about not having scheduled me a massage, not having gotten to the gym to do the pool and the hot tub and the sauna, right?
Mm.
Like that should be as important as getting our to-do list done.
Yes. Yes.
It's like taking our car to the mechanic.
Right. I was thinking today, I have to check on this. I'm not sure, but my gut sense is that in somatics, writings about somatics, I mean, to me, the link between like somatic sensory explorations of movement and the body and sensuality and sexuality is like so clear. But I feel like in a lot of practices, it's kind of like, how should I put this? Like we like cut this out somehow. The sensual part. Like it's there in somatic dance practices, let's say, but it's not very explicitly there. Like people don't instructors, the creators don't talk about that layer very openly. I don't know if you agree with this or not.
Well, I think
Me, I
Nia is
think they do.
different. Yeah, I think Nia is different in that, for example, in free dance, we have 8 stages of free dance.
Yes.
One is feelings and emotions and exploring that and faking it and acting as if to
Mm-hmm.
stimulate the body in different ways. But when we do that, then sometimes what happens is we get into the creative source, right? The real you,
Mm-hmm.
your authentic experience of moving with this music. Sometimes we tap into something, right? And I can see it when that happens, in the room. All of a sudden, someone's like it's like, dude,
Yes.
and that is like, that's part of Nia is you're accessing, like I said, the real, like, this is my experience, and I'm using movement to heal it or express it or whatever. And that's, I think that is sensual and that is pleasure. And we're tapping into like a deeper level. We're not just working out. We're not just burning calories. We're
Yeah.
working from inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that layer is definitely there in Nia, but I don't,
Yes.
it's not in CrossFit, it's not in Zumba.
Yes. And in some practices like femme, or I don't know, like striptease dance, the erotic, the sexual, the sensual is very much, or burlesque, for example, is like very much at the front. Um, well, one aspect I love about Nia is that it allows us to find this sensual connection in a solo dance also. Like I don't necessarily need to be with the partner. And you were actually saying earlier that we become more sensual the deeper we go inside of ourselves. And that I find very liberating and important too, that this kind of like sensual exploration starts not necessarily right away with another person, but it starts with me and in my own embodiment.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, what else can I ask you? Do you think sensuality is an important trait in men also?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I think most men really are quite sensual, right? I mean, human beings just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're sensitive and we feel things and we think things and we hear things and we, have a bodily experience, have a life experience, have a mental and emotional experience, um whether or not men or humans, in general have a practice or a place or a community to access that in. I think is something different. But I know a lot of men when they come in to the studio and they begin to get comfortable, it's like, oh my God, how could I not have this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could I not? I always say, have a really good time in class today. Be aware this potentially might be the, best hour of your entire day right now, right? Like we get in such a heightened, hyper aware, sensate kind of state when we're moving and we're listening to music and we're in community and around other bodies. It's like, that's not just like, what is it? Kind of like the heart, like a flat line in the day, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, I want to keep doing this. That's why I think some people say, I have to have it in Nia. And that it is like, where else do you get that?
Yes, exactly. I agree. Do you think, no, I think you have answered this question already, but let's see if anything else emerges too. Do you think there is a connection between dance and one's intimate life? How can this kind of somatic dance or Nia dance, how can it help somebody in bed?
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Is Nia going to make me a better lover?
I think Nia's going to make me a better lover. Yes. I mean, if 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 I haven't learned to feel my own body,
Mm-hmm.
how can I be good at bed?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or how can I even enjoy my own pleasure if I'm not feeling it? Right? Let alone feel my body and feel another's, right? Like, which is, my dog is barking, I know, but
Mm-hmm.
here's a
Do you
teacher.
want to?
Um, So I think absolutely, like the more I'm able to feel it. Oh, I put it in the lost and found. Um, the more I can feel it, the more it translates to a sexual experience,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the more I can self-advocate for my own pleasure, since I know what I enjoy, what I do and don't,
Yes.
right? And I think Nia also makes us, it's about self-mastery and self-advocating. And so I think part of being good in bed is telling someone else what you like. But first of all, you have to know what you like, and then you have to be confident enough to do it, right? So there's a part
Yeah.
of that confidence in Nia of like, I know what my body needs right now. Doesn't matter what the teacher's doing, kind of thing, that I think
Yes.
helps would translate to more confidence in bed.
Oh, absolutely. I think so. All the attention paid to like free dance and tweaking the movements, like making our own choices when it comes to movement. I think that's key in developing confidence in other matters also.
Mhm.
Do you think there is the reverse also true? In other words, does my intimate life somehow, for example, maybe I don't even have intimate life, maybe I don't have a partner. Does whatever is going on in my intimate life, does that somehow come back to dance also?
Ah,
Influence dancing
it's
too?
a two-way street.
Yeah, does it?
I think so. I
Yeah.
For me it does anyway. When I feel more juiced, right? And I'm um in love or being intimate, or like that part of my life is filled in, I feel like I'm kind of more organic in my life. I'm less rigid. I'm more, and in teaching, right? I have
Mm,
more of a sense of humor. I'm in that I'm cared for. I feel loved. I feel supported. I feel like I belong.
mm,
Not, when I'm with a partner that I'm feeling really loved, right? Not only have I learned that about myself, like learn to love myself and do my own inner work, but then I have that other layer of someone um, supporting and loving me. I think that does translate in my movement, right? I feel more open. I feel more
yeah,
like I can express myself.
yes. And maybe the opposite is true also. For example, if I don't have a partner, I feel like to some extent something is going to be satisfied in me when I come to dance and explore sensuality in my own way, maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe another example would be, and Nia maybe doesn't explicitly address issues of trauma and abuse, but maybe somebody who has experienced, let's say, something traumatic around sexuality can find a self-healing aspect through these types of dances also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're taught somehow not to move your tailbone, or
Yes.
walk without moving your spine, and all of a sudden you're wagging your tail and you're doing pelvic circles and hip bumps and you're in a group of people, right? And you're shimmying, and then all of a sudden it gets normalized.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing it, right? Then it's like, and then, through Nia training, you learn of what happens when you don't move that. What happens when it gets fuzzed over? What happens when you don't have any more blood and oxygen moving through there? And then you have a bulging disc, and then you can't move, and then, right?
Yes. And this I have seen a lot in my clients, actually, now that you mentioned this, a rigidity around hips, actually. And then how little by little people start to incorporate hips in their movements
Yeah.
and they feel connected. I don't know if you have any other examples of this kind of like, oh, I'm discovering new parts of me as I dance, Nia. Oh, spine, hips, I don't know what else. Yeah.
Well, I would say other parts are like my emotional self.
Uh-huh.
Like I might be doing punches and I don't really realize how frustrated I am, but I'm doing that, and then I could burst into tears. Or,
Yeah.
oh, I'm really mad. I need to actually call that person, right? Or
Yes.
whatever. Bring those parts up.
Yes. Also,
And
one thing I think maybe addresses these issues we're talking about in a playful way are the different pearls, the little instructions that Nia teachers give that can be, you can give me an instruction, something like walk in a seductive way or wag your tail. Like I can, and this is maybe I act as if,
yeah.
but these little moments can also teach me something about who I am or what kind of desire I might have. I might
Mm-hmm.
play those aspects of myself out on the dance floor
Mm-hmm.
or imagining myself as a seductress or as a femme fatale or something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're just playing. It's not like there's like a consequence to it, right? It's
Yeah.
not like someone's going to see me in class and go, oh, she's flirting with me. No, we're all just playing.
Yes. And that can be very liberating too for people, very proper, serious. This side doesn't exist. It can be very eye-opening, I think, body opening. Kelly, what do you think? Maybe this is my last question. What would you tell to a person who wants to like start this journey of exploring dance and sensuality and sexuality also? Maybe there's something that that person can do at home in terms of movement or something that you would recommend, some tips how to get started.
Hmm. Well, I think what the pandemic did is it opened Nia and this kind of movement up to people who may not have felt safe going out in public and doing it.
Yes.
So that they can do it on Zoom and at home. So I would say keep your camera off,
Mm-hmm.
do it at home, right? And explore. And I think it's kind of like peeling an onion open, right? It's like take it slow, see what you like. See, if one time it's rock and roll and that turns you on and the next time it's like tribal drumming and that doesn't, just know it's always going to shift and change, but notice what you respond to and don't respond to.
Mm-hmm.
And I as a um Rolfer of structural integration for 15 years, I would tell my clients after working on their back or some injury, put on a song, 4-minute song, 3-minute song once a day and
Yes.
move, right? I mean, in Nia, we learned that, we have 13 major joints. We're meant to move. We want to move energy through the shoulders, elbows, hips, wrists, knees, ankles, and spine to keep that moving, right? It's organic. We're born with it. It's our birthright. Those are our major movers. And by moving those, we move everything. You don't need a dance class. You don't need a video, just move those 13 major joints to your favorite song once a day for 3 to 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then things just like getting up and down from the floor for 1 minute. Don't lose that ability. That's the best thing you can do to squeeze release the joints. And in Nia we also have the 5 stages of developmental stages. So rolling around on the floor, creeping and crawling like babies do, right? To just explore even without music, the sensation of rolling on the earth.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this? Maybe there was mm, a comment that you wanted to make, but I didn't ask you
Hmm.
about it.
Well, I think it's interesting what music and movement do in combination,
Mm-hmm.
and what maybe pushes someone's buttons in a Nia class,
Yes.
right? Um, like, do I want to feel strong? Does that make me feel sexy? Right? Like, just like throwing a punch, does that make me feel sexy? Does that make me feel
Yes.
sensuous? It's probably not only one movement like a Tai Chi, right? Or
Yes.
modern dance that makes me feel that way. I mean, really, Taekwondo makes me kind of feel sexy. I'm powerfully in control of my body, right? But
Mm.
so does Feldenkrais and moving slow and like getting into my own biological organism. I don't think it's just one thing, one movement form or one energy or one speed or one type of music. that can turn that on. I just think we can be surprised and surprise ourselves by giving ourselves variety and then really being honest with what we like.
Yes, and the different sizes of movements also. Sometimes a movement that is very small but happens more in the inside can be also very sensual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the movements that make us feel beautiful
Mm-hmm.
inside and out. Yes. Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for your time, your insights, your inspiration. Also, by the way, one thing that I think is inspiring for people is to see instructors and other dancers around them who give us this feeling of sensual movement. It's almost something, it's like encoded in our brain. Maybe we don't have the words to describe it, but we feel like what you were saying or earlier too. We feel when somebody is connected to their senses and dances from their senses. And so you're one of
Yeah.
those also. You give us a lot of inspiration for that.
It's like, um, I always call it, it's the when Harry met Sally moment, when she's at the
Other,
restaurant, she's
yes.
faking orgasm. And it's like having a Nia teacher at the front that is embodied and has been doing the practice. And it's like, I want what they have. Right.
Yeah.
And to some degree, it takes a little bit of not taking myself too seriously, right? And just showing up and doing it and seeing what happens. And yesterday I was asking a student, well, students at the end of class, what happened for you? And there's about an 80-year-old man laying on the floor, and I could tell he had something. And I said, what did you get from this class? And he said, like you were just saying, like, I can't put words to it, but it's something like sameness. And then the more he spoke about it, he said, every class for me disrupts the sameness of everything else.
Oh,
That diving into something new, even if it's kind of complex or he didn't get it, it broke up the sameness and made him like what? Feel more alive, feel more sensual, feel more like I'm participating in my own life.
yes. And I love the fact that you gave that the example was from an somebody who's in a more advanced stage also. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this exploration of sensuality needs to stop at a certain moment?
Oh
No.
God, no.
God, no.
God, no.
Yes. I think that's one of the gifts of Nia too, right? That we can just keep exploring these sides of ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm getting better and better.
Mm.
At sensing, at self-advocating, at knowing what I like, knowing what I want, um, on and off the dance floor, in and out of bed.
Yes. I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Kelly.
It's an art, right? Yeah.
It's an art.
Thank you for this conversation. So it's fascinating.
Thank you.